Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Not Quite the Witching Hour with me, Thomas Sheridan. I don't have time to make videos of late because I'm dealing with pretty much the aftermath of a storm, which has caused me tremendous financial and other damage, and it's just a problem I'm having to deal with until it's sorted, and it's been a nightmare. But so I have a moment today to deal with this, and I've been getting loads of messages and emails and other things people asking me about the drones in New Jersey. Well, the thing of the drones in New Jersey is, I want to. I think it's very important. I think well, they're all over the U.S. now, and they're apparently appearing in other countries. And as soon as it happened, I took notice. I didn't, it was like, okay, there's something going on here. Now, within the truth movement, two things always seem to happen that they're almost like the quick go-tos when something goes down. Whenever there's a an adverse weather event, it seems the entire truth scene runs into that it's HARP. It's HARP. It's always HARP, or it's directed energy weapons. Every single time, it's never ever a storm. That to happen because, like all through history, that like storms happen. There's no exception to it. It's always HARP. And whenever there's strange lights in the sky, they always run to Project Bluebeam or something like that, a fake alien invasion. Now, I don't believe it's a fake alien invasion and anything like a psyop. And let me explain why. Now, I absolutely do agree that Project Bluebeam is a very plausible conspiracy concept, but it wouldn't be like this, you know. It's been around for a very, very long time. Project Bluebeam in one form or another has been around probably since the First World War, when there were plans to project images to scare the German soldiers. One was a gigantic picture, not a hologram, but a gigantic image on the clouds of the Virgin Marys above Bavarian regiments to get them to try and to escape. And that may have even been tried with things like the Angel of Mons in 1960, I think in 1960, whatever it was, when Cuba fell to communists and Castro. The CIA had a plan to do the same, to project the gigantic image of the Virgin Mary above Havana to make the Cubans rebel against communism and return back to being, basically a mafia state for the CIA. So, they have tried little things like that. Like I said, it is plausible, but it's become a bit of a tired cliche, like saying every weather event is automatically caused by HARP. It's become a tired cliche in that sense. If it was going to be done, it probably would have been done by now. And it wouldn't be done like this. They have, I'll go into reason why I don't think it's a psyop. I think this is in the same vein as it's definitely a Fortean event, and it's in the same vein as the Fatima thing, the black helicopters, the Mothman, Spring Heel Jack, that kind of thing, where a kind of telepathic forms are created, along with maybe something related to something like we call fairy lore or something. If you read Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia, that book has made an enormous impact on me, and it's only more profound when you read it nowadays. It's like, I mean, that book nailed everything for me. That it's there are strange things that do happen. They are related to human consciousness, and our ancestors knew this was part of the other world, or they knew it was part of a supernatural thing. But we don't believe that now. And so you have one side, let's talk about what's going on. There's these drones appearing in their hundreds, maybe thousands all over New Jersey. Now, we'll talk about the two and against arguments to being a psyop or being a Fortean event. Now, there's a few factors here that swayed it for me to being a Fortean event. The first one was that people said they didn't look right. They looked like drones, but they didn't look right. They were strange shapes and they made strange noises. and you'd say, okay, well, that could be part of like some kind of nonlinear warfare thing to blow people's minds, to make them look strange, a kind of to create an uncanny valley type thing, type feeling among the population. True, yeah, I'll go along with that. But it's also people who've encountered these things going back to Fatima. Everything is very, very strange. Like what appeared at Fatima was not the Virgin Mary. That was a whole damage control thing done by the Vatican, and particularly the Jesuits, who swarmed upon the area to turn it into something it wasn't. Remember, two of those children died mysteriously afterwards, and uh, Lucia or Lucia, whatever her name was, the one who lived to, she was locked away in a convent for the rest of her life, and towards the end of her life said that she believed what she saw was the devil and not the Virgin, and what they saw was a rotating 3 foot woman with no hair, and that was all. They just said a lady, and and then all these events happened, like the sky changed. That's happened in the last few days here. The sky went strangely pink all over the northern hemisphere, and that's happened before other things. Now, this could be part of a psychic undercurrent coming to the surface. Remember, before the night before Hitler annexed Austria in 1938, there was an incredible strange light show was seen all over Europe, almost like the release of energy that was being put up there in the sky in that kind of Jungian sense. And so that was one, the strangeness of them. They weren't like straightforward drones. Now, on the other side, people say they have FAA warning lights. And that was the first thing I noticed too, that they have the green and red aircraft indicator lights that drones and aircraft have, a part of like international aviation lighting systems for aircraft. Now we know from the black helicopters that, and it's been written. John Keel has written greatly about this in his own remarkable work. In fact, this has very much been my years of John Keel meets and Jacques Vallée combined into one to bring me to this realization that they mimic things. They try to mimic things. At the beginning, at the beginning of the airship balloon period, they were strange airships and balloons were seen all over the world, and people couldn't figure them out. They were just almost like fantastical shaped things, almost like nothing like that was available at the time, or could even necessarily fly. They mimic, but they make mistakes, and they don't quite. It's almost like an enormous amount of energy or something is used to transform them into what they're trying to make them look like. Now, black helicopters is a classic example. People who have seen black helicopters, excluding myself, will tell you when they appear in places they shouldn't. They look almost like a pastiche of a helicopter, as if someone was given a bunch of sticks, modeling materials, and told to make a helicopter. It's like, look, they look like that. They don't fly properly. They fly strangely, like gnats or something. They often don't make a sound. The one that I saw over the bog made no sound at all. And they just don't look right. They don't act right. They don't look right. And this is the mimicking quality of these things. It's almost like maybe the Mothman was trying to mimic some kind of superhero that was on Earth or that was popular at the time, like Superman, this kind of thing, or Batman. Batman was big at the time of the Point Pleasant thing happened. I think the TV show was on TV back then, and it could have been a telepathic, but an actual entity, but like using a kind of telepathic force to try and make itself look like Batman, but it ended up looking like the Mothman. If you know what I mean. It was they don't. It's like the Men in Black try to look human, but there's always something that doesn't look right. They're dressed incorrectly or inappropriately. They've got the wrong strange shoes on them or things like that, and they don't seem to understand human protocols and that kind of thing and correctly, but they try to fake them. They're mimickers. This mimicry thing. So these things, they look like drones, but they don't really look like drones. They try to look like they have aviation lights, and then the aviation lights, people are saying, they suddenly change. Like the light, then they lit up all over, and the light, and they're not consistent, and they just seem to vanish into thin air. So that was another clue for me. Another one was they leave no RF trace, radio frequency trace. Now, this is literally impossible. Now this is not the same thing as not leaving a radar or a jamming device. You can't when how jamming devices work is they don't make the aircraft invisible. They make it difficult to find its detection of exactly where it is. Now radar, with anti-radar technology, does a similar kind of thing. It makes the pinpointing location very difficult for the triangulation. But there's always an RF pattern. If that was a small LED, but those two red lights on the green and red lights on the outside of these drones, if they were just regular LEDs powered by a 1 or 2 volt, a couple of AAA batteries, they would leave an RF signal that would be found quite easily, So, and these things are saying they're the size of a car, so you can be sure that they would leave an RF signal. Now, some people say, well, what if they're holograms? If they're holograms, they would leave an RF signal from the point where the actual hologram is being transmitted in laser form or whatever. There's always there's always a there's always a signal, a footprint, an energetic footprint every time. Even like the greatest modern state cell technology, there's always some kind of footprint that's detectable. It's not completely invisible. They do things like they can jam radar, they can jam detection, but they can't hide. The signal will show up in some way or form. These things are RF and radar dead. Apparently, they're not showing up on radar. They're not showing up on RF signals with heat prints. So the classic UFO things that way. You always see the classic opening scene. You see that in like Close Encounters where these things appear on radar in the airport. That's very rarely happens. Most times they just appear overhead out of nowhere. They don't leave any kind of signal, and they vanish like this. Now there's another aspect to it too. Them coming out and going into the ocean. This is this is another one. Why would they do this? No, okay, they don't. It makes no sense, coming in now the ocean. People are saying things like they're next to Air Force bases. No, they're not really. And the United States has covered every inch of it. Even Britain is covered in US Air Force bases. Germany as well. They're not. So you can't use that one because there's Air Force bases everywhere. Okay. So another one too, and another clincher for me is people are reporting emotional feelings seeing these things, emotional feelings. And that was a big one for me. They are not right after seeing them. They don't feel right. This is what's causing a lot of stress in New Jersey. And even the politicians who've seen them, you can see they've been rattled by these things. There's something, they have an emotional effect on a psychological effect upon people. And we're having missing time already being reported and all other kinds of other things. When people try to fly drones up near them, there's like the drone falls out of the sky. Why? Because there's an energetic vacuum, a collapsing of matter around these things. This is why they're not crystal clear and sharp. They don't actually really exist as forms. They are as material things. What they do is they collapse the subatomic field around them, and that's why when you zoom in on them, it's like they would going to the end of the rainbow. The closer you get to it, the more it vanishes. It's very similar to that, except it's an energetic collapse. Now, people were saying, okay, it's a stage thing because Trump is coming into power. I kind of agree that could be kind of plausible. But why one state? Why New Jersey? Why not everywhere? Why like this? Or they're setting us up for something that's coming. Why? I don't understand it. It doesn't work that way. Why would the military do that? Who they're obviously devoted to Donald Trump at this point. You can see that, and it's just a lot of work for nothing. There's easier ways of doing it, of taking him down than that. They could assassinate him quite easily if they wanted to, very easily. Now, don't kid yourself that's no longer on the table. So there's that kind of thing. I think that that one doesn't work for me. Project Bluebeam, we've been hearing that forever, and this is. Let me tell you, we're back to this Hobson's choice that they give you. Okay, every single alt media and mainstream media always do two things. It's either a psyop of some kind made by the US government or a foreign government, or it's aliens. Now, this is the classic chessboard routine to keep you going for one or the other ever since Roswell, actually, ever since the rocket ships that appeared over Scandinavia, literally right after L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons did the Babylon working in the Mojave Desert. May or may not be related. However, it's an interesting concept to tie that into that. Now, so they don't when the US government says we don't know what they are, they're telling the truth. Now, that's very hard for people to accept. You have mainstream normies who say, but they're supposed to protect us, the American government who know everything. And then you have like the alternative people who say, oh, they're lying. They know exactly what they are. Well, they do in a way know exactly what they are. They do. They're energetic forms that they have no control over, that are supernatural processes that they have no control over. But they're not going to say it to the public because that would cause widespread panic. So what they're very happy with the people thinking they're either spacemen from outer space or there's the foreign governments or the US government. Now you have the opportunists like a lunatic politician, a Republican, I think he was a representative, who said that he had proof they came from an Iranian mothership. That's just the warmongering, you know, Pentagon lobby within the U.S. government who are mad for war because they get rich personally from it, and that any excuse to attack Iran will do them. That's all that was. And so I see no real evidence. And I'm going to make a prediction here. They'll just suddenly vanish and they'll be gone. Maybe tomorrow or next week, or they'll just be around, just like Spring Hill Jack. They'll appear and then they'll vanish, just like Mothman. They'll appear and then they'll vanish, just like Fatima. They'll appear and then they'll vanish. It's just how it is. They flare up for a while. Now they may be interesting socio-psychological aspects to this, that there's a sense of fear in the world over things like, Ukraine, or there's fears about, like, you'd have this the Trump derangement syndrome may have actually in brought up something to the surface. It's very interesting when you really get into that element of it. And that's, the classic Jungian thing, that is, when you have mass societal breakdown, it's feasible that people throw their consciousness into the sky, seeing things they don't understand, as a way of kind of releasing a psychic shock. Well, I tend to think they open portals and bring things in, and these things kind of like it's a symbiotic type relationship. But I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but that's what I believe goes on a lot with this stuff. Now, so that's my opinion on the New Jersey and other drones. They're a Fortean event. They're completely paranormal. We've been here before with the mysterious airships of the Victorian era, the black helicopters, Fatima, Spring Heel Jack, and Mothman, and countless others. Sometimes they're portents of doom. They were like in the Mothman case, and there were Mothman, I remember, swarming around Chernobyl that were reported. And who did the lights over Austria did, were the portent of the slaughter of World War II. But until information comes out, this is where I am. I'm nailing my colors completely to the Fortean paranormal mast on this, that they are a mystical supernatural event. They're not a psyop, although of course they'll probably do something like crash one, like the fake broken spaceship at Roswell. They'll do something like that to make it think, well, we shot one down. It was pranksters or whatever, like that just I can't believe they're actually saying it's pranksters. So and the prediction I will make about this is definitely they will just vanish, and the lore will just set in. Then what were they? They'll become the new Spring Heel Jack, black helicopters, whatever, men in black, and there may or may not be a portent of doom that might come to New Jersey. Now, this is another thing they said, that they're sniffing for radiation. You don't need drones to do that. You can do that by trucks on the ground. That's not hard at all. And this kind of thing, and the truther end of the thing love that. They love the idea of doom and everything like that. But again, just because things happen doesn't mean it's always the Hobson's choice of, it's harp or it's a storm. Most times it's a storm. It's an alien invasion, or it's a secret weapons. Most time it is secret. A lot of that times it is like Black Ops, yes. But in this case, it's not Black Ops. It's not anything. It's a paranormal event. I'm pretty sure of it, and that's what I think. And I'd love to hear your. I'd love to, if you have a counter argument to this. I'd love to hear it in the post. But you're only wasting your time. You're going to say things like, You watch some video from some terror channel that reptilian resistance 2012, and you spew the cliches, that it's Bluebeam or something. You know, prove it. Prove that it's Bluebeam. You can't, and you can't. But I can actually present evidence that these kinds of things have happened before in the Fortean world. So think for it yourself. Don't just jump on the first thing you see on some truth video that has you believing it. So that's what it is. That's what the drones are for me, and it's a tremendously powerful and interesting thing. If you haven't read Jacques Villet's Passport to Magonia, you please do. You'll actually understand my work from that book very, very well, because I'd say that, like, in terms of my own Fortean explorations, that book nailed everything from fairies to UFOs, did a lot for me, and it's more powerful and more relevant than ever. So until next time, look after yourselves, and as they say, keep watching the skis. Take care, bye, and enjoy these things. Enjoy these things for what they are.